Do you all ever feel like following your dreams is actually the wrong choice? This is kind of the struggle that I've been facing over the last couple of weeks. So, for those of you who aren't aware, hi, my name is Osco, and right now I am currently in San Francisco in a program called Cold Start by Founders Inc. So, Founders Inc. is a venture capitalist firm that invests in cool stuff like AI, VR, and Web3. And they had a program called Cold Start where essentially you would apply and then you'd be if you're accepted, you're given access to their office spaces, which I think are really, really cool. And you get to work alongside around 50 other people working on, their ideas at various stages. Either they just came up with it recently or they're working on it for a couple months. And get to work with like really ambitious people, get live feedback from those people, get a lot of like tutelage from some older, more experienced people who are already like funded by Founders Inc. or work for Founders Inc. So, and the intention being like, Cold Start is like, okay, some people are waiting until next year to start, their whatever goal they want to do. Why don't we start early? Why don't we start in December? So that's kind of where I ended up. I was actually in El Salvador and planning to work on my dream, which is a Mickey. I'll talk about that in a second. But working in El Salvador to set that up. But then I applied to Cold Start. I got in, so I packed my bags from El Salvador and then ended up back in San Francisco. So yeah, that's where I am now. But kind of touching on what I started with, trying to figure out what looks less silly. I'm like centered. Okay, cool. So I used to have a corporate job not even a year ago. I quit in April of this year. I'm posting this now in I guess it's next year, in January 2025. So that job was good for the reasons, but it paid very well for the amount of work I did, which was not that much, and also had the very elusive thing called health insurance. So when you get hurt, you'll not get bankrupt going to visit your doctor. So I quit my job because I didn't really like the environment of working in a corporate environment. It's very much like you're not doing real work per se. You're just kind of playing office politics to try and get to tomorrow and to not get, laid off or fired or what have you. And I personally found it to be really demeaning and grating. And despite the benefits I got, I thought I was better than that, and I quit. With a bit of money saved up, so I wouldn't have to worry about finding a new job immediately, because I kind of always knew that I was going to leave at some point in time. I actually declared to myself after 2 years of working at the company I was going to leave, but I finally pulled the trigger after my 6 year mark, almost exactly my 6 year mark. But things are not always as grassy and green as I thought. The first couple months were definitely very liberating. Having the ability to do anything every day was very like new for me, new, novel, and like very invigorating experience. But then the question always comes, just like, okay, so your dream, or certainly my dream, my dream as of right now is to bootstrap a successful VR company that is located ideally around the world, but we'll start in Latin America because I think it'd be really cool to create a place that can teach you how to make VR apps, whether you're someone technical like a developer or someone more artistic, maybe like a 3D modeler, or maybe someone who's like more curator, like building stories and stuff, and immersive experiences. So I love the idea of building a company in Latin America that kind of teaches and creates jobs for the VR field, which is very much still up and coming. But to do that, you definitely need to have, well, first off, a VR experience, and second off, the experience that is actually like profitable, so you can continue to expand and grow your base and fund other projects. So, and definitely, I was looking at my notes. So definitely, it's in a very interesting spot because I don't want to have the. This is almost like very like abstract and audacious, but I don't want to build a VR company that only makes games, because I myself don't even really play games anymore. Like the game I've been looking forward to the longest in VR was this new one called Metro Awakening, and I bought it, played it for like maybe 2 hours, had a lot of fun, but I just didn't have like that drive I used to when I was younger. I'm 30 now, but the drive to kind of just play games just for the sake of playing games. I've kind of like, as I'm getting older, trying to figure out activities that kind of will get me closer to the person I want to be in a sense, which is also a very like landy, abstract, high level thing that I'm still grasping. But I think just playing games as is doesn't really get me to be that new person that I want to be, that new transform person. So a couple of cool things about what happened when I quit my job. So since I had time to kind of like not always worry about what was going to happen at work the next day, I had some time to explore some hobbies that I've been putting on the burner for a long time to see if I liked it. So skateboarding was one of them. That was pretty cool. I took up Muay Thai because it felt like a cool, like I think a martial arts is something I've always wanted to do, and Muay Thai seems like a very cool one to do. And then, funnily enough, I actually also took dancing. So like I guess they all have like to do with like being able to control your movement, but two of them have like a bigger overlap than one. So definitely, dancing is getting up like a very big counterculture kind of thing, as seen by the great game Bomber Cyberpunk. So as I was taking as I was doing these three things, I was skateboarding did kind of like lightly because I don't have insurance, so like if I take a spill, like it's over kind of thing. So I was mostly focusing on Muay Thai and dancing because I paid money to have like very experienced people make sure that I don't hurt myself while learning these activities. And I kind of liked the idea of Muay Thai, but honestly, it was to me like maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but at that point in time, just very mundane because it wasn't like you were learning a bunch of different techniques like to uh spar or defend yourself. It was more like you have to start with the basics and then refine those basics so much that you're able to move to the next level. And when I was talking to my then Muay Thai instructor, I kind of asked like, when do I know when I'll get to the next level? And then he said, "We'll tell you," which kind of implied to me it's going to be a very long road, maybe six. And then I talked to some other people. Like I have a friend that actually did Muay Thai before me, and they're already at that advanced level. They said that if you have like a knack for it, maybe 6 months of like pretty intense training, like daily-ish training, and if you're like more casual about it, maybe 2 years. But getting to the next level wasn't really like my personal like badge I was looking for, like my personal validation. It was just something that I thought was. So I kind of thought to myself like, so I have to do this very basically refine these like very specific routines for basic training for the next 6 months, and I could do that. And there is value in like being able to like refine things at that level, but I was also taking dance at the same time, and it was very much more in line with the way I do things personally. So I myself, for my day job, I am a code boy. But the interesting thing is like I'm not a very like proficient coder in the sense that like I know one thing and can do it very well. I'm really interested in like a lot of different technologies and implementations. So I have like a very wide knowledge set as opposed to like a very deep specific knowledge set. And I felt like when I took the dance classes, I was kind of more catering towards where Muay Thai was more like that specific deep refinement of movements. The class I took, which was hip hop, intro to hip hop, it was more like getting that wide base. So you would start with the basics movements, and once you kind of got there, you would actually be able to kind of learn simple choreo, and then that choreo will kind of expand into itself. So you would kind of like widen out the number of like dance moves that you would know, which can keep building on themselves, and like eventually you would have your own, I guess you can say, dance alphabet or dance dictionaries, I guess the word, because you're basically every move is a kind of like a word that you learn with your body. And I thought this was really cool for a lot of different reasons. What are these reasons? What I write in my notes? Well, first off, I guess this is like a new experience for me, but like because I never was really into sports as a kid because I was like hilariously out of shape and never wanted to get in shape. This is the first time where I had to really like take care of my body because I would be able to, with your body in more like tip top pristine condition, you could like move with it, and then when you move with it, it was like as opposed to like when you learn it. It's such a hard thing to explain, and that's I think kind of the fun of it. So when you're in school, you book learn, right? Like you basically take a lot of time to read through books, memorize it, regurgitate what you have. But when you dance, it's almost like you learn with your body. Like you see your dance instructor like do a move, and then you try and replicate it. And then, of course, you're not gonna get it right the first time because it's the first time you've ever seen it, right? But then you'll kind of go through the motions with like your legs, your arms, your head, and then like through practice, your body would remember like the right way to move, and that was kind of like learning with your body. It was really surreal because I remember when I first started the hip hop class, there was like I learned a new move. We learned it in that day in class, and then I just could not figure out how to like move the right way to kind of like replicate what we need to do. And then after next week, I will try it again with like a fresh mindset, and then I'd land it like the first second try, and I'm like, this is I don't know how to explain this, but this is like insane, and I thought that was really really cool. But then so then like, we kind of circle back to like why do I learn how to dance in the first place? So I wanted to learn Muay Thai because it seemed like a cool thing to learn, and actually had the opportunity to visit like my advanced friends. They call it a smoker. Uh, they call it a smoker. It's kind of like a friendly sparring competition where no one really officially wins or loses. And I gotta be honest, these are supposed to be like more of the advanced people, and definitely like I'm gonna say this with a grain of salt because I'm not good at Muay Thai, but it wasn't like a terribly interesting thing to watch. It kind of more like ended up there's like a oh my gosh I forgot what you call it, but kind of like a headlock position where you're trying to like control the other person, and people end up in that position because it was just really tiring to be technical with a lot of the movements. So that was not super interesting to watch. Uh, like seeing the people in the ring didn't encourage me or motivate me to want to go back into the gym to eventually be in the ring with someone else kind of thing. But at the same time, I actually had a chance recently, like I think around 2 weeks ago. One of my friends took me to a dance exchange, which is kind of like a friendly version of a dance battle, and that was probably the most fun I had the entire year. Like it was located in like a pretty small studio somewhere like in South Bay, like southern San Francisco, but the energy there was like immeasurable. So I'm gonna make a quick metaphor. If you've ever played like Bob, I keep saying this because I love the game so much. I love it, just everything about it. So if you ever played this game called Bob Marsh Cyberpunk, it's they have dancing mechanics in the game, which is really funny because it's more or less just used to kind of like set the ambience and tone of the game, but also weirdly enough to switch characters. But you can only you can only switch characters at these places that have like checkered squares, and that's where you have like a dance cipher. So basically, a bunch of people just like meet up, and they just kind of like they just dance, they just vibe. And then there's also a point in the game where you have to compete with other crews, like other teams, I guess you can say. And then it's really cool. Like at the end of the competition, there's like three judges, and then I don't know how to describe it. It's like, but it's really cool. So basically, like they just sit there, they look at one crew, they look at the other one, and then they just like yo, yo, and they just point at the crew that wins, and like that's exactly what happened at the IRL dance exchange that I went to. It was like two people were facing off, depending on the category. And then basically they would dance their heart out. I'll show some videos probably as I'm talking, which I thought was really insane. And I was really bad at focusing the camera because I was kind of like not actually looking through the lens. I was kind of like looking with my eyeballs and trying to like just at least keep the camera centered. But you can kind of see me grooving. Sometimes I react when everyone else reacts. But seeing those people like on the floor, like I already knew kind of like in the back of my mind that they've probably been dancing for a long, long time, at least a couple of years, if not like decades. And despite all that, like it just looked like it was so much fun being on the floor. And like that really made me want to refine my own journey in like learning how to dance so I can kind of one day maybe be on like the same dance floor as them one day. So that kind of gave like so the Muay Thai match made me not want to go back to the gym, but the dance exchange made me want to go back into the dance studio to kind of like improve my form, learn new forms, things like that. The biggest issue with me doing that is, well, it's like a threefold thing. So it costs money to go to every session. Luckily, it's not like terribly expensive. It ranges between like 15 to 30 per session, I would guess you would say. But definitely, if you go, more than once a week, that can definitely add up. Especially since I'm not making income right now, so that definitely could add up. The second thing is if you're not in the right location for a certain dance style, you won't be able to learn it in person. So you're screwed. Like so, I live in Virginia currently, and I don't think Virginia has like I'm gonna get shocked saying this probably online, but I don't think it has like a very strong dance identity because a lot of like the very popular dance styles come from places like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, things like that are very like culturally impactful. I don't think Virginia has that same cultural impact. We have like historical stuff, like colonial times, but that's not where you look how to dance. So maybe if I'm lucky, I can find like dance instructors or studios that kind of like do those styles. But the other thing is like I live in the suburbs pretty far from the city center. I'd say like an hour and a half ish. So having to drive that much, maybe even 2 hours to go to like a 1 hour, 2 hour dance session, that's a big time commitment. So that sucks. So it can get expensive. You might be in the right place to learn how to dance. And even if you are in the right place, the studio is definitely not 10 minutes away from your house. So to kind of subsidize that problem or like solve it, my first initial impression was to actually make a VR app to teach you how to dance. And this was kind of an interesting dilemma because first off, I don't really know how to dance that well. I'm still very much like so noob. I would say is like level one. I'm like level two, maybe three if I'm like very like high ego about it. But I'm like level two, so I know basic movements. I know basic timing, but I didn't realize when I was making this app that I was only catering to people who are like at least at level two. But if this is really to teach you how to dance, I have to kind of like peel it back a little bit and then kind of replicate the experience that I got when I first started. So when I first walked into the dance studio for my hip hop class, I essentially was we didn't learn anything big or grandiose. We just kind of like worked through some basic movements, and eventually those kind of stacked into the first choreo that I would learn, kind of thing. So that's the first thing I want to do. Yeah, need to go. And the biggest grinder here, the biggest question is like why VR? So there's already I would say there's two big existing solutions to learning how to dance at home that kind of solve three problems. So you can either kind of take time to just watch YouTube videos and kind of just break down the moves and like learn on your own, and then maybe see yourself in a mirror or maybe record yourself on your phone, and then you'll have that basis. But you don't really have like that live feedback to know like how to kind of like clean up your dance moves. Is what I'll say. And there's also another app I'm actually going to subscribe to this year because it's on sale. I'll give you the code. Let me look at the code. HNY 2025. You can get 50% off Steezy. I'm not endorsed by them, but the app looks pretty clean. So basically, as opposed to YouTube, where you would just like kind of just try your best to find someone that looks like they know what they're doing. This Steezy app collects a bunch of different instructors from I guess across the world and kind of like neatly categorizes them into like whatever style you want to learn and then breaks down those styles. Allegedly. I'm not about the app yet, but I'm going to because I think it'd be a really important research point for how I want to build out my app. But the bottom line for that one is it's also like a desktop like phone app. And the thing that kind of my dance instructor would always say is like you have to imagine that you're always dancing in front of a crowd because if you just kind of like half-heartedly just go through the routines, the movements, you're not really doing it with like passion or heart. You're just doing it to do it, and then you're not really dancing because the dancing is just expression of like how you feel inside, reacting to things on the outside. I guess you could say. And my hope is that like by building like a VR version, you're always like in front of that audience. You're always in that world. You're always like ready to like cut loose and just just move and start grooving kind of stuff. So nothing like this really exists in VR right now. There are dancing games of various capacities. So like we have the camera based ones, maybe like Dance Central or Just Dance, that kind of just like you do like a cool pop song and just kind of follow along. But it doesn't really break down the moves. It doesn't really explain why you're moving the way you're moving. And you definitely could take those moves to the club, but then like it's kind of hard. What I personally found as a big fan of Dance Central is that it's hard for you to like break up the steps so you can kind of like use them as part of your dance dictionary. Like you remember the whole whatever routine for the pop song like from end to end, but you don't really like you can't really take it out and then use it other places because you weren't really given like that instruction or basis to kind of like freestyle in a sense. Which is funny because if you ever play Dance Central on the Connect, I don't know about the VR version, but on the Connect, there's usually every song in the middle part has a freestyle section, and then every time I just kind of stand there, I'm just like, okay, what do I do, kind of thing. Like, like the game like babies you into like doing different steps, which are it's just fine, but you don't actually really know how to like find your own style and like express yourself. So yeah, for the existing games that are kind of like immersive or VR, so we have like the camera based ones, and we also have which recently came out, Just Dance VR, which I really, I really want to endorse this game, and it's very good for a casual audience. But in that same vein, it's like you don't really learn how to dance. You're just kind of like just vibing, having fun. Which is there's no like nothing wrong with that. But you're not really getting to that like point where you can go out and like use the moves that you learn in VR, kind of thing. So what I'm hoping is that through this hobby, where I feel like I can kind of like learn how to express myself, be more present in the moment. I want to make an app that kind of like caters towards building your fundamentals and also like expanding your dance dictionary or dance vocabulary. So yeah, right now, this is week 3 or 4 of Cold Start, and what I what I originally started with was like this very scuffed dancing mini game where essentially you would just see like a stick dude in front of you and you would just match your hand movements with them. But it's like the same main problem as what I was explaining earlier, where you're just following movements, but you don't really know what's happening. So I was trying to like peel back the process of learning how to dance, and then made stuff for like level 2 people is what I'd say. So I would basically take a video, and then in a different app, I would kind of break up the video into different dance moves, and then you would just go into the dance app I make, which is Sway XR, and just kind of like practice the move until you felt like you personally mastered it, and then move on to the next one. But then right now, I'm trying to figure out my A1 problem. Well, there's two A1 problems. The first one is like I don't know how to like advertise this app or make content for it, and I guess is like I took a big hit in my ego, but like the last video I posted, it got really negative feedback on Reddit. So I got to figure out either how to cater to them or how to better explain in video form how to tell a story of like what this app actually does. So that's one problem. The other one is that I got to figure out how to kind of replicate that in-person teaching experience, because I think that's really what builds your confidence to kind of continue on with the craft. Because what I imagine right now is if someone jumped into the app as it is right now and tried to go into the training mode, they might be able to figure out what's going on. But because I didn't realize that a lot of the dances that I kind of like charted or, like broke up, the movements are actually like pretty difficult for someone who's never moved before like that in their whole life. And I can only imagine someone to try it, get frustrated, and then like leave the app, kind of thing, which I would really hate, because if that's the first impression of it, they probably won't come back unless they hear really good things about it from other people. Which it's hard to remake your first impression. So I guess that's the other hang up on why I'm trying not to like advertise it as much. But I think maybe maybe the true people who understand the vision of what I'm trying to do, maybe they'll stick around and kind of like work through a lot of the growing pains until like the app becomes decent, like MVP. So that's one thing. And the other thing I was trying to figure out how to replicate the teaching experience. So the two paths I think I might try out. The first one is maybe have like programmatically have the computer analyze your movement compared to the video that you're dancing against, and then give you like that live yeah, be like, hey, fix your elbows here, hey, move your left foot, blah blah blah. But I wonder if that'll come off as like annoying or like even like heartless in a sense, because a computer can't really give you that like reassurance that like like you're not doing the move right now, but you will in a second. Like I got that in person when I had a teacher, and good teachers are kind of like understand that you're not you're not at their level, obviously, so they're trying to like guide you a little bit, so you'll at least master this step and be wanted to do the next one, kind of thing. So that's one thing. The other thing I was kind of fermenting on is maybe having like skilled instructors put on the headset and then maybe just teach a live class and see how that goes, or maybe have some sort of like live or not live recording, but like not live recording of how they move, and then have someone just like jump in. So there's a lot of different things I could try out. I don't even know if it's worth doing right now, and maybe I should just kind of like peel it back and just go back to like building the module for like starting off the basics. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. This is the second to last week of Cold Start. Next week is the last one, and I hope that I'm probably not going to build any new stuff anymore. Probably just clean up any of the features I already have. But I think next week I'm going to try to market this as hard as possible, just to see if people like give a shit about the idea. So that's the biggest thing for next week. And then I guess we'll circle back to the original topic that we started with, which was just like, am I on the right path? Is this really what I should be working on at this exact moment in time? I was really like, after last week when I posted the video, I was like kind of losing hope that like maybe like this is dumb, like nobody cares, like I'm wasting my time. I should be figuring out the next thing that actually makes money, kind of thing. But then I actually had some, like I said, circling back to like being around 50 really ambitious and smart people building things that like as well. A couple of them, three namely, I'm gonna shout you out, Savannah, Will, and Ryan. They really aggressively wanted me to try out the app that I had as is, which was more or less like ready. And then this is actually the first time in VR, so I got to experience. It's so much fun. I don't know. As a VR developer, when you get people to get in the headset the first time, they always have this like wow moment. They're like, "Whoa, what the heck? Where am I? This is crazy. This is what you do every day," kind of thing. And that's one thing. So that wow factor is definitely really cool and kind of sits in their mind higher as their first impressions. But then the two pieces of feedback that I got that kind of like made me feel like I was on the right path was kind of things that touched on earlier that the existing dance at home solutions did not provide. So like the first thing is when you're in VR, you're like in that environment, and they felt like they would forget where they were in real life, but they could definitely like start investing and moving as if they were like that cool dance character or dance persona they always wanted to be. So the immersiveness definitely like made them want to stay in there longer, which I thought was really cool. And it's fun. Like the exact quote was like, "This is way better than following YouTube video," kind of thing. So I think that kind of gave me more inspiration to keep honing this and refining it. And then the one thing I was kind of hoping to not hear, but I guess was happy to hear, was one person said like I would definitely buy a headset just for the opportunity to like continue using this app. And I kind of always hesitate to say that because buying a VR headset is definitely like a hefty investment. It's not cheap. Like a cheap new one would be around $300 for the at this point in time the Meta Quest 3S. But for like the one that I use right now, the Quest 3, which is really really good quality, it's around 500 $600 from my recollection. You could go to eBay or something and try and buy like a used Quest 2, which I strongly don't recommend because every I bought one thing from another person and the picture looked fine, but you don't realize when you actually get the thing like in person. First off, it was covered in dog hair, which was disgusting. And it's like in the crevices of the headset, so like I still can't take it out, and it's like super gross. And the second thing is that I don't know how they did this, but the lenses have this like smudge in the exact same place on both lenses. It's almost as if like they press their eyeballs against the lenses of the VR headset and then just like let it sit and then just like stained it. So like it's almost like when you're driving on on a rainy when you're driving on a foggy day and you can't get rid of that little bit of fog on your windshield. It's like that, but like all the time. That really makes you mad whenever you use VR. So that sucks. I gotta figure out how to fix that. So I strongly recommend you do not buy a used headset from anyone online. But if you happen to live close to like a used tech or like computer repair shop, I've bought three headsets from two different stores, and they've all come out great. So they know how to take care of their stuff at least. So I can recommend you that. Uh, but yeah, I was kind of like what I really wanted to kind of touch back on one of the three things. So like the three things I was hanging up on with learning how to dance in real life is the cost, location dependent, and also like time consuming to get to and from the dance studio. So I really didn't want someone who didn't already have a headset to buy a new one because just to use the app because that's a really hefty investment. But then I should probably be thinking about it the other way. Maybe there's people that already bought the headset and are really disappointed with like the apps that are currently like available. And then maybe you should be more thinking of the lines of like I want to get more value out of the $200 investment that I've already made with this device. So I think that's what I'm going to angle for. I'm going to try next week to make more content to kind of show how. The word I use is FOMO content. And be like, look how much fun I'm having in the headset. Like, don't you want to be in here? Don't you want to learn how to dance? So I'm gonna try to make content like that. Just just have fun and definitely make more vlog updates to kind of explain the journey as is. And and last thing. So as I was kind of trying to figure out how to explain the basics to someone in VR, I came across a interesting video by Steezy where they're kind of outlining like how much does it take to get to the next level of your dance proficiency. So kind of like earlier when I was talking about the Muay Thai getting to the advanced level, could be anywhere from 6 months to like 2 years maybe. Uh, the Steezy YouTube channel, which has a lot of great content, was saying that in order to get to the next level of dancing, you have to dance at least 5 times a week for 6 months straight to get to the next level. And I thought that was like, whew, that's a lot of effort. But if I make this app and it's fun and you want to be in the app and actually like get better and learn new stuff, I think that 5 days is gonna be very trivial. Oh yeah, 5 days for half an hour, 6 months straight. 5 days a week, half an hour every day for 6 months straight. And I think there be definitely are like gamifications of ways I can kind of like tease out like, oh hey, you've reached 5 days, you got XP, you level up, blah blah blah, you get new accessories. I don't know. Like, I'm still trying to figure out like the gamification of how to like make people want to be coming back to the app. And I think if I get that, I will achieve something that a lot of VR apps have yet to achieve, which is like that continuous user base. Because most of the apps are like cool novel experiences. You play it for like an hour or two, maybe 10 if it's like a more longer experience. But then you kind of just like, play the app. It's one and done kind of thing. Maybe multiplayer has like that replayability, but most VR apps just have that one and done kind of thing. If I can be one of the few apps that have that replayability because you see yourself having fun, you see yourself getting better, then I think I definitely will have I'll have something that I can monetize and continue to grow and make better. So that is this week's update. Long ramble per usual. But yeah, thanks for listening. My name is Osco. I'm working on Sway XR. It's a VR desktop app to teach you how to dance. See me in the metaverse. Peace.